The red sand burned under the twin suns of Therion 7. Heat waves danced across the endless desert like ghosts. Jinwoo pulled his face mask tighter and checked his water reserves. Half empty, he had maybe 6 hours before he needed to turn back to the colony. But something was wrong with his moisture scanner. The device kept beeping every few minutes. It detected water somewhere ahead. That was impossible. Nothing lived in the crimson wastes except sand vipers and rock beetles. No water had been found this deep in the desert for over 20 years. Jinwoo had been guiding supply runs across Therion 7 for 8 years. He knew every dangerous path and every safe shelter. The human colonies depended on people like him to find salvage and map new routes. Most aliens could not survive the brutal heat. Even other humans struggled. But Jinwoo had grown up in the desert. It was his home. The scanner beeped again. Stronger this time. He climbed a tall dune and looked through his scope. Far below in a rocky valley, something glinted in the sunlight. Metal. Lots of it. A crashed ship. Jinwoo felt his heart speed up. Crashed ships meant valuable salvage. Computer cores, power cells, medical supplies. The colony always needed more resources. But crashed ships also meant danger. Radiation, unstable fuel, and sometimes survivors who did not want to be found. He slid down the dune toward the wreck. As he got closer, he saw it was not a human ship. The hull was purple and gold with strange curved edges. Valdari design. Jinwoo had seen their ships in pictures but never up close. The Valdari were one of the most powerful alien races in the galaxy. They ruled over dozens of worlds and looked down on humans as primitive. Their empire was built on strength and perfection. Only the strong deserved to rule. Only the perfect deserved to live. This ship was small, maybe a personal transport or scout vessel. Part of the hull was torn open. Dark scorch marks covered the sides. But this was not battle damage. The metal was cut too cleanly. Someone had opened this ship from the inside. Jinwoo approached carefully. His radiation detector stayed quiet. The air was safe. He peered through the largest hole in the hull. Inside, the ship was a mess. Expensive furniture was thrown around. Golden decorations were scattered on the floor. Rich purple fabric hung in tatters. This had been a luxury vessel. Someone very important had traveled in this ship. But where were they now? The moisture scanner beeped frantically. Jinwoo followed the signal toward the back of the ship. In what looked like a bedroom, he found supply crates torn open. Food containers were empty. Medical supplies were scattered everywhere. Someone had been here recently. Someone who was hurt and desperate. Jinwoo left the ship and searched the area. The sand showed tracks leading away from the wreck. Small feet, dragging steps. Whoever it was had been injured. The tracks led toward a cluster of rocks about half a mile away. He followed the trail. The tracks got weaker as the wind covered them with sand. But his scanner kept beeping. Water was definitely ahead. Behind the rocks, Jinwoo found a small cave. Dark stains in the sand showed someone had been bleeding. A lot. He pulled out his flashlight and entered the cave. In the back corner, curled up like a scared animal, was an alien girl. Jinwoo stopped breathing for a moment. She was Valdari, no doubt about it. Purple skin with silver markings on her face and arms. Long dark hair that looked almost black in the cave light. She wore torn royal robes that must have cost more than Jinwoo made in a year. But something was wrong with her. Her left arm was twisted and much smaller than her right. Her left leg was bent at a strange angle. These were not injuries from the crash. She had been born this way. The girl looked up at Jinwoo with large golden eyes. She was terrified. Her good arm held a small energy pistol, but her hand was shaking too much to aim it properly. She said something in the Valdari language. Her voice was weak and hoarse. Jinwoo slowly raised both hands to show he was not armed. He spoke softly in basic galactic common, the trade language most species understood. I will not hurt you. You are injured. I can help. The girl shook her head and said something else in Valdari. She did not seem to understand common. Jinwoo tried again, speaking even slower. Water, food, medicine. I have these things. At the word water, the girl's eyes went wide. She looked at Jinwoo's canteen hanging from his belt. Her cracked lips moved, but no sound came out. Jinwoo very slowly reached for his water bottle. The girl raised the pistol but did not fire. Her hand was shaking worse now. Jinwoo could see she was dying of thirst. He opened the canteen and took a small sip to show it was safe. Then he set it on the ground between them and backed away. The girl stared at the water for a long moment. Then she dropped the pistol and crawled forward. She grabbed the canteen with her good hand and drank deeply. Too deeply. She started coughing and spitting up water. Jinwoo moved closer and gently took the canteen back. Slowly, small sips. "You will make yourself sick." The girl looked up at him with confusion. Why was this human helping her? Why was he being kind? Jinwoo could see the questions in her golden eyes. He examined her injuries while she rested. Besides the birth defects, she had cuts and bruises from the crash. Her royal robes were stained with blood. She was thin and weak from days without proper food or water, but she was alive. And she was young, maybe 16 or 17 in human years. Jinwoo looked at the expensive clothes and the royal markings on her skin. This was not just any Valdari. This was someone very important. Someone who should have been protected and cared for. Instead, she was dying alone in a desert cave. As Jinwoo cleaned her wounds with medical supplies from his pack, he began to understand what had happened. The Valdari valued physical perfection above everything else. A royal child born with defects would be seen as shameful, an embarrassment to the bloodline. They had not just crashed in the desert. They had been left here on purpose. The girl watched Jinwoo work on her injuries. She winced when he cleaned the deeper cuts but did not pull away. Slowly, the fear in her eyes was replaced by something else. Wonder. Hope. When was the last time someone had shown her kindness? Jinwoo finished treating her wounds and offered her more water. This time she drank slowly. He also gave her some dried fruit from his emergency supplies. She ate like she had not had real food in days. Outside the cave, the wind was picking up. Jinwoo checked his weather scanner and felt his stomach drop. A sandstorm was coming, a big one. They had maybe 2 hours before it hit. This cave would not protect them. The storm would last for days. They needed better shelter. Jinwoo looked at the injured alien girl. She could barely walk. Carrying her across the desert would be almost impossible. But leaving her here meant certain death. There was really no choice at all. He started gathering his supplies and tried to explain the situation, using hand gestures and the few Valdari words he knew. The girl seemed to understand. She struggled to her feet, leaning heavily on the cave wall. Jinwoo offered his shoulder for support. After a moment of hesitation, she accepted his help. Together they left the cave and headed back toward the crashed ship. It was not ideal shelter, but it was better than nothing. As they walked slowly across the sand, Jinwoo wondered what he had gotten himself into. Helping this girl could cause serious problems with the Valdari Empire, but as he looked down at her determined face, he knew he could not abandon her. She was just a child. And no child deserved to die alone in the desert. The sandstorm hit just as Jinwoo and the alien girl reached the crashed ship. Wind howled across the desert like a living thing. Sand filled the air so thick that Jinwoo could not see his own hands. The ship groaned and shook but held together. Jinwoo had sealed the largest holes in the hull with emergency patches from his kit. It was not perfect, but it would keep most of the sand out. He set up a small shelter in the cleanest part of the ship using his survival tent. The girl sat in the corner watching everything he did with curious golden eyes. For 3 days the storm raged outside. Jinwoo rationed their water and food carefully. The girl was too weak to eat much anyway. She slept most of the time, curled up in the spare blanket Jinwoo had given her. On the second day she started talking. At first it was just whispers in the Valdari language. Jinwoo could not understand the words, but he recognized pain when he heard it. She was having nightmares. Sometimes she would cry out and wake up frightened. Jinwoo would offer her water and speak softly until she calmed down. By the 3rd day, the girl was feeling stronger. She watched Jinwoo repair his equipment and organize their supplies. When he started drawing a map in the sand, she moved closer to look. Jinwoo pointed to different marks on his rough map. He said the words slowly in common language. Water, food, shelter, danger. He pointed to himself and said, Jinwoo. Then he pointed to her and waited. The girl understood. She touched her chest with her good hand and spoke carefully. Nara. Her voice was still hoarse but getting stronger. Jinwoo smiled and repeated her name. Nara. She nodded and tried to smile back. It was the first time he had seen her face without fear or pain. Over the next few hours, they began to build a simple way to communicate. Jin Woo would point to objects and say the words in common language. Nara would repeat them in her careful voice. Water, food, sand, rock, hot, cold. Nara was a fast learner. By evening, she was putting simple words together. Jin Woo, give water, she would say when she was thirsty. Nara hurt here when her injuries bothered her, but Jin Woo could see there was much more she wanted to say. Her eyes held intelligence and sadness that went far beyond simple words. He decided to try something different. He smoothed out a section of sand and started drawing pictures. First he drew a simple stick figure and pointed to himself. Jin Woo, human. Then he drew a different figure with the curved ears of a Valdari and pointed to her. Nara Valdari. She nodded and took the stick from him. Her good hand moved carefully across the sand. She drew a large building with tall towers. Then she drew many Valdari figures inside it. She pointed to one figure that was bigger than the others and drew a crown on its head. Then she pointed to herself. Jin Woo understood. She was royalty. A princess. Nara drew more pictures. She showed a small figure with a twisted arm just like hers. She drew the crowned figure pointing at the small one with angry gestures. Then she drew the small figure being carried away from the palace. Jin Woo felt sick as he realized what the pictures meant. Nara had been thrown out of her own home because of her disabilities. Her own family had rejected her. He looked at Nara's sad face and felt anger rise in his chest. What kind of people would abandon a child because she was not perfect? Jin Woo had known many disabled humans in the colony. They were valued for their minds and hearts, not just their bodies. Jin Woo drew his own pictures in response. He showed the small twisted figure surrounded by many different people, all helping and caring for her. He pointed to Nara and then to his own chest, trying to show that he accepted her as she was. Nara stared at the pictures for a long time. Tears ran down her purple cheeks. She had never seen kindness like this before. That evening, as they shared their small meal, Nara began to tell her story using the few common words she knew and many hand gestures. Her full name was Nara Veth. She was the daughter of the Valdari supreme ruler, but she had been born with twisted limbs that would never grow straight. In Valdari culture, physical perfection was everything. The strong ruled and the weak served. There was no place for someone like her. For 16 years she had lived hidden in the palace. Her father was ashamed of her. Her tutors taught her languages, science, and history, but always reminded her that she would never rule. She would never even be allowed to appear in public. Then her mother, who had protected her all these years, died in an accident. Without her mother's protection, Nara became a problem that needed to be solved. Her father decided she should disappear quietly. A ship crash in the desert, no survivors. No one would ask questions. As Nara told this story, Jin Woo felt his anger grow. He had heard that aliens could be cruel, but this was beyond understanding. To throw away a child because she looked different was monstrous. But as the days passed, Jin Woo began to see who Nara really was beneath the fear and sadness. She was brilliant. When Jin Woo showed her his navigation tools, she understood them immediately. She could read star charts better than most trained pilots. When his water recycler broke down, she figured out how to fix it using parts from the crashed ship. She knew things about technology that amazed Jin Woo. She understood alien languages, mathematics, and science that human colonies could only dream of learning. Her twisted body held one of the sharpest minds Jin Woo had ever encountered. More importantly, she was kind. When Jin Woo injured his hand while working on the ship, Nara insisted on cleaning and bandaging the wound even though it was difficult with her limited mobility. She shared her small portions of food when she thought Jin Woo looked hungry. Jin Woo began teaching her human sign language to help with communication. Nara learned the hand signals quickly and seemed fascinated by the idea that humans had developed ways for people with different abilities to communicate. "Humans help all people?" she asked one evening using a mix of words and signs. "We try to," Jin Woo replied. "Everyone has value. Everyone deserves respect." Nara looked confused by this idea. In her world, value was measured by strength and perfection. The idea that worth could come from other things was completely foreign. Jin Woo showed her pictures of the human colony. People of all ages working together. Some were strong and some were weak. Some were healthy and some were sick or injured. But all of them contributed something to the community. "Different people, same worth," Jin Woo explained using simple words and signs. Nara studied the pictures for hours. She asked many questions about human society. How did weak people survive? Who took care of them? Why did the strong ones help instead of ruling over them? Jinwoo tried to explain concepts like compassion, cooperation, and equal dignity. These ideas seemed to fascinate and confuse Nara in equal measure. On their 4th day together, the storm finally ended. Jinwoo opened the ship's hatches and breathed fresh air for the first time in days. The desert was calm again, but they were running low on supplies. It was time to head for the human settlement. Nara was stronger now, but still could not walk long distances. Jinwoo fashioned a walking stick from ship parts to help support her weight. He also made a simple brace for her twisted leg using fabric and metal strips. As they prepared to leave the ship, Nara seemed nervous. She asked many questions about the human colony. Would they accept her? Would they be afraid of her? Would they send her back to her father? Jinwoo assured her that humans would treat her with kindness. But privately, he worried about what would happen when they reached New Busan. Harboring a Valdari royal could cause serious diplomatic problems. Still, looking at Nara's hopeful face, he knew he could not abandon her now. She had already shown him that the Valdari were wrong about weakness and worth. Maybe it was time to show the galaxy that humans saw things differently. Together, they walked out into the desert morning, heading toward an uncertain future, but no longer facing it alone. The journey to New Busan took 2 days. Jinwoo had to stop often so Nara could rest. Her twisted leg made walking painful, but she never complained. She was determined to keep going. On the 2nd morning, they climbed a high ridge and saw the settlement spread out below them. New Busan was built into a deep canyon that protected it from sandstorms. Solar collectors covered every flat surface. Gardens grew in terraced levels down the canyon walls. Water flowed through channels carved into the rock. So many people, Nara whispered, staring at the bustling community. 5,000 humans call this place home, Jinwoo said proudly. We built it in 20 years. Before that, this was just empty desert. Nara looked amazed. The Valdari conquered worlds that other species had built. They did not create new settlements themselves. The idea that humans could transform a wasteland into a thriving city was hard for her to believe. As they walked down into the canyon, people began to notice them. At first they waved at Jinwoo, happy to see the familiar guide returning safely. Then they saw Nara limping beside him and the greetings stopped. Word spread quickly through the settlement. By the time they reached the main plaza, a crowd had gathered. People whispered and pointed. Some looked curious. Others looked worried. A few looked afraid. Is that really a Valdari? Someone asked. What is she doing here? Asked another voice. Jinwoo ignored the stares and helped Nara to a bench near the water fountain. She was exhausted from the long walk. Her golden eyes darted nervously at all the watching faces. Jinwoo, you need to explain this right now. The voice belonged to Hai Jin, the settlement leader. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been a military officer before coming to Therion 7. She knew how to make hard decisions. I found her dying in the desert, Jinwoo said simply. She needed help. That is a Valdari royal, Hai-Jin said, pointing at the silver markings on Nara's face. Do you know what kind of trouble this could cause? Before Jinwoo could answer, Dr. Somin pushed through the crowd. The settlement's chief medical officer was a small woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. She knelt beside Nara and began examining her injuries. She needs proper medical care, Dr. Somin said. These wounds are infected. When did she last have clean water? 3 days ago, Jinwoo replied. Dr. Somin looked shocked. She should be dead. How did she survive so long in the desert? She is stronger than she looks, Jinwoo said, glancing at Nara with respect. More people had gathered now. The crowd was getting restless. Some demanded that Nara be sent away immediately. Others argued that they should help anyone who needed medical care. We cannot harbor a Valdari royal, said Councilman Minho, an older man who handled trade negotiations. The Empire will see this as an act of war. They will blockade our supply ships. She is just a girl, protested Dr. Somin. Look at her. She is barely alive. While the humans argued, Nara sat quietly on the bench. She understood more of their language now, but the rapid conversation was hard to follow. She could tell they were deciding what to do with her. Suddenly, a commotion started near the medical center. People were shouting for Dr. Somin. There had been an accident in the deep mines. A cave-in had trapped several workers. I have to go, Dr. Somin said, standing up. Bring the girl to the medical center. We can discuss this later. But as Dr. Somin started to leave, Nara struggled to her feet. She grabbed the doctor's arm with her good hand and spoke urgently in broken common language. Rocks fall, yes? People trapped? Nara asked. Dr. So-min nodded, surprised that Nara understood. I help, Nara said firmly. I know rocks. I know caves. She is injured, Dr. So-min protested. She needs rest. But Nara was already limping toward the medical center. People hurt worse than me. I help now. Jinwoo followed along with most of the crowd. At the medical center, they found chaos. 3 miners had been brought up from the collapsed tunnel. 2 were unconscious. 1 was barely breathing. The worst injured was Dong-soo, a young man who worked as a tunnel support engineer. A falling rock had crushed his chest. Dr. So-min was struggling to keep him alive. His lung is punctured, she said grimly. I need to operate, but I do not have the right tools. The mining equipment damaged my surgical laser. Nara pushed forward despite her injuries. She looked at the broken medical equipment with intense focus. Then she examined Dong-soo's wounds. Lung collapsed, yes? Air in wrong place? She asked Dr. So-min. Yes, but how did you... I study medicine, Nara explained quickly. Valdari and human bodies different, but lungs same. She pointed to the damaged surgical laser. This machine broken, but mining laser in workshop can work. Need small changes. Dr. So-min looked confused. Mining lasers are too powerful. They would kill him. Not if change power settings, Nara said. She was already sketching modifications on a piece of paper. Her good hand moved quickly, drawing detailed technical diagrams. These calculations, Dr. So-min whispered, studying Nara's notes. They are brilliant. But how do you know so much about our technology? I study everything, Nara replied. Languages, science, engineering. Fathers say I never need knowledge, but I learn anyway. Several engineers had gathered around them. They looked at Nara's modifications with growing excitement. This could work, said Chief Engineer Woo Jin. The power conversion is actually simple. We could have it ready in an hour. Dong-soo does not have an hour, Dr. So-min said desperately. Nara looked at the dying man. Then she made a decision that surprised everyone. I keep him alive, she said. I know pressure techniques. You build machine. For the next hour, Nara worked to save Dong-soo's life. Despite her twisted arm and injured leg, her hands were steady and sure. She used ancient Valdari healing techniques combined with human medical knowledge to keep his vital signs stable. The entire settlement watched in amazement, as this alien girl they had feared worked desperately to save one of their own. When the modified laser was finally ready, Dr. So-min performed the surgery while Nara assisted. The operation was a complete success. Dong-soo's breathing stabilized and his vital signs improved. As news of the rescue spread, the mood in New Busan changed completely. The same people who had wanted to send Nara away now looked at her with respect and gratitude. She saved his life, someone said. Did you see those calculations? She is a genius. She risked her own health to help a stranger. That evening, the settlement council met to decide Nara's fate, but the debate was very different now. She has proven her value to our community, Dr. So-min argued. She knows things that could benefit all of us. The political risks are still real, Councilman Minho warned. The Valdari Empire will not ignore this, but Hai-jin had made up her mind. This girl saved one of our people today. She showed courage, skill, and compassion. Those are the values we respect in New Busan. The vote was unanimous. Nara would be granted asylum in the human settlement. When Jinwoo told her the news, Nara began to cry. For the first time in her life, she had found a place where she was valued for who she was, not judged for what she could not do. Welcome home, Jinwoo said softly. Nara smiled through her tears. Home. It was a word she had never thought would apply to her. But as she looked around at the faces of her new human friends, she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she had finally found where she belonged. 3 months passed peacefully in New Busan. Nara learned to speak common language fluently. She helped improve the settlement's water systems and power generators. The humans treated her with kindness and respect she had never known before, but peace could not last forever. The first sign of trouble came when Jinwoo's long-range scanner detected ships entering the system. Big ships, military vessels moving in perfect formation toward Therion 7. Valdari Imperial Fleet, announced Communications Officer Yu Jin from the control center. 15 warships. They are requesting to speak with our leadership immediately. Heijin activated the main screen in the settlement's council chamber. The image that appeared made Nara gasp with fear. A tall Valdari male in golden armor looked down at them with cold, angry eyes. His face was similar to Nara's, but harder, more cruel. "I am War Commander Taeho of the Imperial Fleet," the alien said in perfect common language. "I come for the criminal who calls herself Naraveth. Surrender her immediately or face the consequences." Nara shrank back in her chair. "My brother," she whispered. "Father sent my brother to kill me." Heijin stepped forward to face the screen. "This is Leader Heijin of New Busan Settlement. The person you seek is under our protection. She has committed no crimes that we recognize." Taeho's eyes flashed with anger. "She is a disgrace to the royal bloodline. Her continued existence shames our family and our empire. Hand her over now and we will leave peacefully." "No," Heijin said firmly. "We do not surrender people to be executed for the crime of being born different." "Then you have chosen war," Taeho replied coldly. The screen went dark. Within hours, Valdari soldiers had landed outside the canyon. They set up a blockade around New Busan, cutting off all escape routes. Their advanced weapons and armor made them nearly invincible in direct combat, but the humans did not intend to fight a direct battle. Jin Woo gathered the settlement's defense team in the old mining tunnels. These experienced desert fighters knew the canyon better than any outsider could. "The Valdari fight like they do everything," Jin Woo explained. "By the rules. Straight lines, fixed formations, overwhelming force. But we know this terrain. We can use that against them." The first Valdari assault came at dawn. Armored soldiers marched down the main canyon road in perfect rows. Their energy weapons fired in synchronized patterns. It looked unstoppable. But the humans had spent 3 months preparing for this moment. Hidden charges collapsed sections of the canyon walls, blocking the Valdari advance. Sniper teams picked off soldiers from concealed positions. The desert fighters struck quickly and then disappeared into secret tunnels. The Valdari were confused and frustrated. Their rigid military training had not prepared them for this kind of warfare. From the command center, Nara watched the battle through security cameras. She saw her brother's soldiers struggling against human tactics they could not understand. "I can help," she told Heijin. "I know how they think, how they plan attacks." Heijin looked uncertain. "It is dangerous. If they capture you, they capture me anyway if we lose," Nara replied. "Let me fight for my new home." Nara's knowledge of Valdari military doctrine proved invaluable. She predicted where they would attack next. She identified weaknesses in their equipment. She even helped hack into their communication systems to listen to their battle plans. "How does she know so much about military tactics?" asked Defense Coordinator Jamin. "I studied everything," Nara explained. "Father never let me fight, but I learned anyway. I hoped someday I could prove my worth to him." Now she was using that knowledge against her own people to protect the humans who had shown her kindness. The battle continued for 3 days. The humans used hit-and-run tactics, environmental traps, and superior knowledge of the terrain to frustrate the Valdari forces. But they could not win through conventional means. The Valdari had too many soldiers and too much firepower. On the 4th day, Taeho demanded a direct communication with the settlement leaders. "You fight well for primitives," he admitted grudgingly. "But this ends now. I challenge your best warrior to single combat. If your champion wins, we leave. If I win, you surrender the criminal." Heijin looked around the room. Their best fighters were skilled, but no human could match a Valdari warrior in single combat. The aliens were stronger, faster, and had superior weapons. "I will fight him," Jinwoo said quietly. "No," Nara protested. "He will kill you. Taeho is the best warrior in our empire." "Then what do you suggest?" Jinwoo asked. Nara thought for a long moment. Then her golden eyes lit up with an idea. "Not single combat," she said. "Trial by debate. Old Valdari law. If I can prove my worth through wisdom instead of strength, the charges against me are dropped." Heijin looked confused. "Will your brother accept that?" "He has to," Nara said. "It is ancient law. Sacred tradition. Even father cannot break it." The challenge was issued. Taeho was furious but could not refuse without dishonoring himself. The trial would be broadcast across the Valdari fleet so all soldiers could witness it. That evening, Nara faced her brother across the settlement's main plaza. Hundreds of humans watched from the canyon walls. Thousands of Valdari soldiers watched from their ships. "You shame our family," Taeho declared. Your weakness pollutes the royal bloodline. Nara stood straight despite her twisted limbs. 3 months of good food and medical care had made her stronger. 3 months of human friendship had made her confident. I am not weak, she replied in the formal Valdari language. I am different. And difference has value. For the next hour, Nara defended her right to exist. She spoke of the scientific discoveries she had made, the lives she had saved, the technology she had improved. She described the human concept of worth based on character rather than physical ability. Strength fades with age, she argued. Beauty withers with time, but knowledge, wisdom, and compassion grow stronger throughout life. These are the true measures of worth. Tejo tried to argue against her, but his words sounded hollow. He had been trained to fight, not to think. His sister's intelligence and learning far exceeded his own. The turning point came when Nara revealed information about corruption in the Valdari High Command. She had discovered evidence of officials stealing resources meant for frontier colonies. She had proof of military commanders falsifying reports about their conquests. This is treason, Tejo said angrily. This is truth, Nara replied calmly. I have recordings, documents, financial records. The empire you serve is built on lies. The broadcast reached not just the Valdari fleet, but communication networks throughout their empire. Citizens on dozens of worlds heard about the corruption for the first time. Military officers learned that their superiors had been lying to them. Tejo realized that his sister had just started a revolution. By morning, reports were coming in from across the empire. Protests on 3 worlds, a military coup on another. Colonial governors demanding investigations into the corruption charges. Tejo stood in his ship's command center, watching his empire begin to crumble. He had come to kill one defective girl. Instead, she had exposed the rot at the heart of Valdari civilization. What have you done? He asked when Nara contacted his ship. I told the truth, she replied simply. Something our family should have done long ago. Tejo looked at his sister's image on the screen. For the first time, he saw her clearly, not as a shameful burden, but as a person with thoughts, feelings, and remarkable abilities. You have destroyed everything, he said sadly. No, Nara corrected him. I have given our people a chance to build something better. Tejo ordered his fleet to withdraw from Therion 7. The trial was over. Nara had won not through combat but through courage, intelligence, and the power of truth. As the Valdari ships disappeared into hyperspace, Nara stood with Jinwoo on the canyon rim looking up at the stars. Do you think they will forgive me? She asked. Jinwoo put his hand on her shoulder. For telling the truth? The good ones will thank you, Nara smiled. She had found more than just a safe home among the humans. She had found her true purpose, to build bridges between different peoples and create a galaxy where everyone had value. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning. The weeks following Tejo's retreat were the busiest in New Busan's history. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Some were from Valdari colonies asking for help against corrupt governors. Others came from alien species that had been conquered by the Empire years ago. Nara worked day and night translating communications and organizing the flood of information. Her small workshop in the medical center had become the hub of a growing resistance movement. Look at this, she said to Jinwoo one morning, showing him a datapad covered with star charts. 17 different species are asking for our help. They all heard the broadcast. Jinwoo studied the charts. Red marks showed Valdari-controlled systems. Blue marks showed worlds in rebellion. There were a lot more blue marks than anyone had expected. The Empire's falling apart faster than we thought, he said. Because it was built on fear, not respect, Nara replied. Take away the fear and there is nothing left. Dr. So-min entered the workshop carrying a medical scanner. Nara, you need to rest. You have not slept in 2 days. Too much work, Nara protested. People are counting on us. And they need you healthy, Dr. So-min said firmly. Sit down and let me check your blood pressure. While the doctor examined her, Nara continued explaining her discoveries to Jinwoo. The Empire conquered 47 different species over the last 300 years, but they never actually defeated most of them. The aliens surrendered because they were afraid of Valdari military power. But that power was real, Jinwoo pointed out. They had superior weapons and ships. Some of it was real, Nara agreed, but much of it was stolen. The Valdari took the best technology from each species they conquered. Then they destroyed the original creators and claimed the inventions as their own. She pulled up holographic displays, showing various alien technologies. Plasma weapons from the Corvani, shield generators from the Threxi, faster-than-light engines from the Polani, all labeled as Valdari innovations. Jinwoo whistled softly. So the Empire built its reputation by stealing from smarter species? Exactly. And now those species are learning the truth. They want their technology back. They want their freedom back. Dr. Somin finished her examination and packed up her equipment. Your health is improving, she told Nara, but you still need more rest and better nutrition. I will rest when the work is done, Nara said stubbornly. The work will never be done if you collapse from exhaustion, Dr. Somin replied. That is an order from your doctor. After Dr. Somin left, Jinwoo sat down across from Nara. She is right, you know. You are pushing yourself too hard. People are suffering while I sit here safely, Nara said. My father's empire has enslaved billions of beings. I have to help fix what my family broke. You did not break anything, Jinwoo reminded her gently. You were just a child when these crimes were committed. But I can help repair the damage now, Nara insisted. I know the Empire's weaknesses. I know which officials are corrupt and which ones might be willing to change. She activated another holographic display. This one showed a complex web of connections between Valdari officials, military commanders, and colonial governors. I spent years listening to palace conversations that I was not supposed to hear. People ignored me because I was defective. They said important things in front of me without thinking. Jinwoo studied the network diagram. This is incredibly detailed. How did you remember all this information? I wrote it down in code, Nara explained. I hid the records in my personal computer files. I thought someday I might need proof of what I had learned. You were planning this rebellion for years? Nara shook her head. I was not planning rebellion. I was just trying to understand why my family was so cruel. I wanted to know if all Valdari were like them or if it was just our bloodline. And what did you discover? That most Valdari are not naturally evil. They are scared. The Empire teaches them that other species are dangerous enemies who want to destroy them. Fear makes people do terrible things. She pulled up recordings from several Valdari colonies that had recently declared independence. The alien citizens were celebrating in the streets, but they were not attacking Valdari civilians who lived among them. See, Nara said, when they are not afraid, they can live in peace together. Jinwoo was impressed by Nara's deep understanding of galactic politics. You could have been a great ruler if your people had given you the chance. I never wanted to rule, Nara replied. I just wanted to help people. All people, not just Valdari. A communication alert chimed on Nara's workstation. The message was from an unexpected source. Her mother's sister, Aunt Mira, who had been in hiding since the old queen died. My dear niece, the message began. I heard about your brave stand against your father's tyranny. Your mother would be so proud of you. Nara's eyes filled with tears as she listened to her aunt's words. There are many of us who remember your mother's vision of a better empire. We have been working secretly to preserve the knowledge and culture she valued. We have been waiting for someone to give us hope again. The message included data files containing thousands of documents, scientific research, historical records, and cultural artifacts that progressive Valdari had saved from destruction. This is incredible, Jinwoo said as they reviewed the files. Your mother's supporters preserved an entire alternative history of Valdari civilization. Look at this, Nara said excitedly, pointing to a series of scientific papers. Medical research showing how to help people with genetic conditions like mine. My father banned this research, but my mother's followers kept it alive. They found architectural plans for cities designed to accommodate people with different physical abilities. Art and literature celebrating diversity rather than conformity. Educational programs that valued intelligence and creativity over physical strength. Your mother was building a different kind of empire, Jinwoo realized. One based on cooperation instead of domination. And now we can finish what she started, Nara said with determination. Over the next few days, Nara worked with her aunt's network to coordinate resistance activities across Valdari space. They identified military commanders who were sympathetic to reform. They located scientists and engineers who had been forced to work on weapons, but would rather build helpful technologies. Most importantly, they found teachers and philosophers who could help change how young Valdari thought about other species. Education is the key. Nara explained to the new Busan Council during a strategy meeting. My people have been taught lies for generations. We need to show them the truth gradually, carefully. How long will that take? Asked Councilman Minho. Maybe a generation, Nara admitted. Real change takes time, but we can start now by helping the colonies that want independence. Show the galaxy that former Valdari subjects can govern themselves successfully. Heijin looked concerned. That sounds like a long, dangerous process. Your father will not give up easily. No, he will not, Nara agreed, but he is old and sick. His grip on power is weakening. My brother Taeho saw that during our trial. Other military leaders are starting to question orders. She activated a star chart showing recent developments across the empire. 3 more colonies declared independence this week. 2 Valdari fleet commanders refused orders to attack civilian targets. The empire is cracking apart from within. Jinwoo smiled proudly. You did this, Nara. One conversation broadcast across the galaxy started all of this change. We did this, Nara corrected him. Humans taught me that different kinds of people could work together as equals. Without that example, I never would have found the courage to speak out. Dr. Somin entered the council chamber carrying a message pad. Nara, you need to see this immediately. It just came in on the emergency channel. The message was from Taeho, but this time he was not threatening them. Sister, the message began. Father is dying. The stress of losing half the empire has broken his health. The Imperial Council is preparing to name a new supreme ruler. They want to choose me, but I am not ready to lead. Nara read the rest of the message in stunned silence. Her brother was asking for her help. He wants to meet with you, Jinwoo said, reading over her shoulder, on neutral ground, to discuss the future of the empire. It could be a trap, Heijin warned. No, Nara said softly. I know my brother. He is many things, but he is not a liar. He really does want to change. She looked around at the humans who had become her family. This is what we have been working toward. A chance to rebuild the empire based on cooperation instead of conquest. Are you sure you are ready for this? Jinwoo asked. Nara smiled, thinking of how much she had grown since that day he found her dying in the desert. I have the best teachers in the galaxy. Humans showed me what is possible when different people work together. Now it is time to show the rest of the galaxy. The revolution that had started with one abandoned girl was about to reshape the entire galactic order. 6 months had passed since Nara first contacted her brother. The meeting place was the ancient ruins of Cathara, a neutral world that had been abandoned centuries ago. Representatives from dozens of species gathered there to witness what might be the end of the Valdari Empire, as it had existed for 300 years. Nara stood on the steps of the old temple, looking out at the assembled crowds. Humans from New Busan stood beside former Valdari subjects who had won their independence. Even some progressive Valdari had come to support the reforms. Are you nervous? Jinwoo asked, joining her on the temple steps. Terrified, Nara admitted, but also hopeful. Look at all these different people working together. In the distance, a Valdari Imperial transport ship was landing. Taeho had come alone as promised to meet with his sister and discuss the future. Dr. Somin approached them, carrying her medical scanner. How are you feeling, Nara? Any pain from your old injuries? I feel strong, Nara replied. And it was true. Months of good nutrition and medical care had improved her health dramatically. Her twisted limbs would never be perfect, but they no longer caused her constant pain. More importantly, her confidence had grown. The scared, abandoned girl that Jinwoo had found in the desert was gone. In her place stood a leader who had learned to see her differences as strengths rather than weaknesses. Taeho emerged from his ship wearing simple clothes instead of his usual golden armor. He looked older, wearier. The stress of leading a crumbling empire had aged him beyond his years. Brother and sister faced each other in the temple's main chamber. The last time they had met, it was as enemies. Now they were allies working toward the same goal. Father died 3 days ago, Taeho said without greeting. His last words were your name. Nara felt a complex mix of emotions. Despite everything he had done to her, Kethmore had still been her father. Did he suffer? She asked. No, it was peaceful. I think he was relieved that the burden of ruling was finally over. They sat together on the temple's ancient stone benches. Around them, the walls were covered with carvings showing different alien species living in harmony. It seemed like an appropriate place to plan a new kind of government. The Imperial Council refuses to accept the reality of our situation, Tejo explained. Half our colonies have declared independence. Our military is split between loyalists and reformers. Our economy is collapsing because we can no longer force other species to trade with us. What do they want to do? Nara asked. Fight. Use nuclear weapons if necessary to force the colonies back into submission. They would rather rule over ashes than lose their power. Nara shook her head sadly. That would destroy everything, including our own people. Which is why I need your help, Tejo said. The council will not listen to me. I am too young, too inexperienced. But they might listen to you? Me? Nara looked surprised. I am the defective daughter they wanted dead. You are also the person who started this revolution. The colonies that declared independence did it in your name. The reform movement calls you their inspiration. You have more real power than anyone in the imperial government. Tejo pulled out a datapad showing recent public opinion surveys from across Valdari space. 70% of young Valdari support your vision of a reformed empire. Even on the homeworld, your popularity ratings are higher than Father's ever were. Nara studied the numbers with amazement. The people who had been taught to despise weakness and difference were now following a leader who embodied both. What are you asking me to do? She said. Come back to Valdari Prime, address the Imperial Council. Show them that change is possible without destruction. Nara looked at Jinwoo, who had been listening quietly to the conversation. It is your choice, he said simply. But remember that you have friends who will support you no matter what you decide. Nara thought about the comfortable life she had built in New Busan. She had meaningful work, good friends, and safety. Going back to Valdari space meant risking everything, but she also thought about the billions of people throughout the galaxy who were counting on her to help create a better future. I will go, she decided. But not as a member of the Imperial family. I go as an independent leader representing all the species that want peace. Tejo looked relieved. The council meeting is scheduled for next week. I will arrange safe passage for you and any advisors you want to bring. I want to bring Jinwoo, Nara said immediately, and Dr. So Min, and representatives from the species that were conquered by our empire. That could be seen as provocative, Tejo warned. Good, Nara replied with a smile that reminded him of their mother. It is time for the Imperial Council to be provoked. The journey to Valdari Prime took 3 days. Nara spent the time preparing her speech and coordinating with allies throughout the empire. Messages of support poured in from colonies, reform groups, and even some military units. When their ship entered orbit around the Valdari homeworld, Nara pressed her face to the viewport and looked down at the planet she had not seen in over a year. Valdari Prime was a beautiful world of purple oceans and golden continents. Cities sparkled like jewels across the surface. It should have been a paradise, but Nara knew that beauty hid centuries of oppression and fear. Second thoughts? Jinwoo asked, joining her at the viewport. Many thoughts, Nara replied, but not second thoughts. This is where I belong, not as a royal princess, but as someone who can help heal the wounds my family created. The Imperial Palace was exactly as Nara remembered it. Tall spires reached toward the sky. Golden walls reflected the light of the setting sun. Everything was designed to intimidate visitors and display the power of the ruling family. But now Nara saw it differently. She saw waste where she once saw wealth. She saw arrogance where she once saw strength. The palace that had seemed so magnificent in her childhood now looked like a monument to greed and cruelty. The Imperial Council chamber was packed with officials, military officers, and representatives from various government departments. These were the people who had run the empire for decades. Many of them looked angry that a disabled exile was being allowed to address them. Nara entered the chamber walking slowly but proudly. Her twisted leg still caused her to limp, but she held her head high. Jinwoo and Dr. Somin flanked her sides, while representatives from 6 different alien species followed behind. The sight of former enemies walking freely in the Imperial Palace caused angry murmurs throughout the room. Order, Tejo called from the speaker's platform. The council will hear Princess Naraveth speak about the future of our empire. She is no princess, shouted Admiral Q-Wan, the head of the Imperial Navy. She is a traitor who destroyed our colonies with her lies. I destroyed nothing, Nara replied calmly as she took her place at the speaking podium. I simply told the truth, and the truth set people free. She activated a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Red zones showed areas still under Imperial control. Blue zones showed independent colonies. Green zones showed regions that had formed cooperative alliances. Look at what has happened in the past year, Nara said. The colonies that gained independence are more prosperous now than they ever were under our rule. Trade has increased. Scientific advancement has accelerated. People are happier. They are rebelling against rightful authority, protested Governor Han Sol, who controlled several remaining colonies. They are choosing freedom over oppression, Nara countered, and we can choose to be part of that freedom, or we can destroy ourselves trying to maintain control we never really had. She changed the display to show economic data from across the galaxy. Our empire is bankrupt. We spend more on military forces than we earn from trade. The only reason we survived this long was by stealing resources from conquered worlds. Now those worlds are gone and we have nothing left. Finance Minister Ji Hoon stood up reluctantly. The princess speaks truly about our economic situation. We cannot maintain current military spending for more than 6 months. Then we use nuclear weapons, Admiral Q Wan declared. Destroy the rebel colonies as an example to others. A shocked silence fell over the chamber. Even the most hardline officials looked disturbed by this suggestion. And after we destroy them, then what? Nara asked quietly. Who will trade with a species that uses nuclear weapons against civilian populations? Who will trust us? Who will want to be our allies? She gestured toward her alien companions. These people represent species that have every reason to hate us. We conquered their worlds, enslaved their people, and stole their resources. But they are here today offering partnership instead of revenge. One of the alien representatives stepped forward. It was Ambassador Dalho, a member of the Corvani species whose homeworld had been conquered 50 years earlier. The Corvani people do not forget the harm that was done to us, he said in careful Valdari. But we also do not seek endless vengeance. We want to build a galaxy where our children can live in peace. Other alien representatives spoke as well, each offering cooperation despite past injuries. The Imperial Council listened with growing amazement. They had expected demands for reparations or threats of retaliation. Instead, they heard offers of friendship and partnership. Why? Asked General Sung Ho, the Army Chief of Staff. Why do you offer us mercy when we showed you none? Ambassador Dalho looked at Nara before answering. Because one of your own people taught us that individuals should not be judged by the crimes of their leaders. Princess Nara showed us that Valdari can be compassionate and just. We hope to work with more Valdari like her. The chamber erupted in heated debate. Some officials demanded that the aliens be arrested. Others called for Nara to be tried for treason. But a growing number began to ask practical questions about how a peaceful transition might work. Dr. So Min stepped forward to address the medical concerns. The princess has asked me to present research on genetic conditions like hers, she announced. We have discovered treatments that could help thousands of Valdari who have been hidden away in shame. She displayed medical data, showing how genetic diversity actually strengthened populations rather than weakening them. Your empire's obsession with physical perfection has made your people more vulnerable to diseases and genetic disorders. Accepting diversity would make you stronger, not weaker. Jin Wu spoke next about the practical benefits of cooperation. Humans learn to survive on harsh worlds by working together. Different skills, different perspectives, different abilities, all contributing to the success of the whole community. The same principle can work on a galactic scale. As the presentations continued, the mood in the chamber began to shift. The angry shouts became thoughtful questions. The demands for war became discussions of peace. Finally, Teho called for a formal vote, all in favor of accepting Princess Nara's proposal for a reformed government based on voluntary cooperation, rather than forced submission. The vote was close, but the reformers won. The Valdari Empire, as it had existed for 3 centuries, was officially dissolved. In its place would be a new confederation of independent worlds working together for mutual benefit. Nara felt tears of joy running down her cheeks. The scared little girl who had been abandoned in the desert had somehow managed to change the course of galactic history. But the real work was just beginning. Over the next months, Nara traveled throughout former Imperial space, helping establish new governments and mediate disputes. She worked with Jinwu to set up trade networks that benefited all species equally. She collaborated with Dr. So Min to create medical exchange programs. Most importantly, She established schools that taught young people from all species to work together and respect their differences. 1 year after the Imperial Council vote, Nara stood once again in the place where her journey had begun. The crash site in the Crimson Wastes had been transformed into a memorial garden. Water flowed through channels carved in the rock. Plants from dozens of different worlds grew in terraced gardens. Jinwoo joined her beside the memorial stone that marked the spot where he had first found her. "Do you ever regret leaving your quiet life in the desert?" Nara asked. "Never," Jinwoo replied. "That day I found you was the day my life really began. Everything before that was just preparation." They walked together through the garden, which had become a symbol of hope throughout the galaxy. Beings from many different species came here as pilgrims, seeking inspiration from the place where one person's compassion had changed everything. At the center of the garden stood a simple statue, not of Nara or Jinwoo, but of two hands clasped in friendship. One hand was human, the other was alien. The inscription below was written in dozens of languages, but the message was the same in all of them. Different people, same worth. Different worlds, shared future. As the twin suns of Therion 7 set behind them, Nara and Jinwoo looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there on thousands of worlds, people were learning to see past their differences and work together. The desert that was supposed to be Nara's grave had become the birthplace of a new age. And the girl who was thrown away because she was not perfect had become the leader who showed the galaxy that imperfection could be beautiful too.